Nation of Humanitarian Affairs says heavy rains since mid-December have caused widespread floods in Mozambique's Gaza, Maputo and Sofala provinces, with several rivers basins above alert levels. The OCHA report said authorities estimated that more than 400,000 people had been affected, but numbers expected to rise in rains as rains continue. South Africa's Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs Minister Velenkosini Hlabisa has welcomed the government's classification of flood-hit provinces as national disaster areas. He says it is a critical step in strengthening coordination across all spheres of government and speeding up response efforts in the hardest-hit provinces. National Disaster Management Centre head Elias Sithole says that the classification is meant to direct resources where they are needed the most. Sithole explains which provinces will be covered by the classification.
We've realized in the Eastern Cape, they were affected by floods as well. Northwest also, they were affected by floods, and then also KZN. So our classification covered those provinces as well, because we thought let's not only focus to Limpopo and Mpumalanga, because these other provinces as well, even though the focus now is more on Limpopo and Mpumalanga, but those provinces also, they need help as well from the national government. That's why we've included those provinces as well.
There's mixed reaction to Uganda's long-serving president, Yoweri Museveni's election victory at the weekend. This extends his rule into a fifth decade. The Electoral Commission made the announcement after days of tension. The vote was marred by allegations of fraud and violence. The opposition has rejected the results. Meanwhile, the internet has also been partially restored following days of social media blockade. Channel Africa's Michael Arereng reports from Kampala.
The results for the presidential and parliamentary elections in Uganda have been announced officially by the chairman of the Electoral Commission, Justin Bakama. The incumbent President Yoweri Museveni, who will on 26 January 2026 will be marking 40 years since he came to power, won again with 7,946,000 votes against Robert Kyagulanyi of the National Unity Platform, who only got 2,741,000 votes. It was a big gap between the two contestants.
Political analyst Ntsikelelo Breakfast says leader of South Africa's Economic Freedom Fighters, Julius Malema, must give substantive evidence to support his claim that his firearm case is politically motivated. Malema is set to learn his fate on Friday in the East London Magistrate Court as sentencing looms. This follows his conviction last year of the unlawful discharge of a firearm during a 2018 party rally. Breakfast says the EFF will face serious political implications should its leader be sent to prison.
What is tended to happen is that the ideological framing that holds the discourse of the party together is Marxism and Leninism. There are two subsets there. One is vanguardism. Two is the notion of democratic centralism. So the party has tended to do what I call political substitutionism. Decision-making has tended to revolve around the personality of Julius Malema. If he loses this appeal, it will have a particular meaning in terms of the strategic direction of the party.
Lastly, the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has said that the U.S. is ripping up the international rule book, believing the power of law should be replaced by the law of power. In an interview, Guterres called for reforms to the Security Council that would limit the veto power of permanent members such as the U.S. and Russia and better reflect the world that exists today. The BBC's James Landale.
The Security Council is the most powerful body at the United Nations, with the US, China, Russia, France and the UK as permanent members. But Antonio Guterres said it was now ineffective and no longer represented the world that existed today. The Council's composition, he said, should be changed to regain its legitimacy. He also said the power of permanent members to veto decisions should be limited. Some, he said, were using their veto to frustrate the will of a huge number of UN members in ways that were very difficult to swallow. In recent years, the US has vetoed decisions on Gaza, Russia, on Ukraine.
Channel Africa News, I'm Onele Ntsinzi.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
And coming up in your sports news this hour, the world continues to react to Senegal's win over Morocco in the final of the Africa Cup of Nations tournament, while the first Grand Slam tournament of the year, the Australian Open, is underway in Melbourne. Details at 12:30.
Your window to the continent and beyond. Africa Update. Only on Channel Africa. The African Perspective. This is Africa Update, your pulse to the continent. Stories shaping nations and voices driving change. Stay informed, stay connected, right here on Channel Africa, the African Perspective.
It is 12:07 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa on DSTV's audio bouquet channel 802, OpenView channel 628, and on www.channelafrica.co.za, as well as on the SABC Plus app, available on the Apple and Google Play stores. You can also download the Channel Africa app on the Google and Apple Play stores. Well, you can join us coming up in this hour, rather. Uganda's president has been re-elected with 72% of the votes, and some provinces in South Africa have been declared disaster areas due to flooding and wildfires.
Africa, meet Abedi.
Yeah, that's me.
Abedi is a music lover through and through.
I really love African music.
He's got a taste for all kinds of tunes and spends his days listening to Channel Africa. Guess what? He didn't know.
Okay.
Channel Africa wants to help Abedi and all music lovers everywhere to discover even more incredible music. That is why Channel Africa is calling on all African musicians to submit their music. Musicians, remember to give us all your relevant information. Make your submissions at music@channelafrica.co.za. Submissions are your chance to be heard on radio. But sadly, they do not guarantee that you'll be playlisted. All submissions will be carefully reviewed to see if they meet our station's requirement. Channel Africa, the African Perspective. Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
Join us in conversation on our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram at Channel Africa 1, on Facebook at Channel Africa. You can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763. That's 406-9126. Hashtag Africa Update, and let us know which country you're in. And if you have any stories that you'd like us to highlight or to focus on, send us an email. It is newsroom@channelafrica.co.za, or give us a call on +2711 714-4451. That number again is actually +2763. That's 406-9126. And today on Hashtag Africa Update asks, what is your view on the re-election of Uganda's president, 81-year-old Yoweri Museveni? Share your thoughts and your views on all our social media platforms, on X and Instagram at Channel Africa 1, on Facebook at Channel Africa. You can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2783 288 at 6488. That's Hashtag Africa Update us.
Keep Africa in your hands. Connect to our website for all your news, sports, and cultural updates. channelafrica.co.za. Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
Uganda's longtime president, Yoweri Museveni, has called opposition parties and leaders in his country who tried to use violence to overturn election results terrorists. Our official results have shown that the 81-year-old won by 72% of the vote. The poll has been criticized by African election observers and rights groups. The National Unity Platform, official NUP chapter South Africa, led by Robert Kyagulanyi, has rejected the results. And to speak to us further about this, we are joined on the line by Richard Kamya, a coordinator, NUP South Africa. Richard, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update. All right, we've just lost that connection to Richard. As Tracy tries to get a hold of him, just to unpack exactly what has unfolded during this election period in Uganda and what this means going forward for the people of Uganda, and whether anything, if anything, can be done with the election results, and how President Yoweri Museveni is calling opposition parties and leaders who tried to use violence to overturn election results terrorists. We'll unpack exactly what the status quo is currently in Uganda. And that's the question on Africa Update today. We're asking you what your view is on the re-election of Uganda's president, who is 81 years old. That's Yoweri Museveni. Share your thoughts and your views on all our social media platforms.
Conversations are happening, and Channel Africa is at the heart of them. We tell the African story with clarity, pride, and purpose, reaching audiences that matter to your brand. Partner with us and connect your business with listeners across borders in multiple languages and markets. For partnership opportunities, sponsorship, or sales, email us at partnership@channelafrica.co.za. Channel Africa, the African perspective. Your window to the continent and beyond. Africa Update, only on Channel Africa. Channel Africa, the African perspective. Tune in and turn up the volume. This is Channel Africa.
Well, we'll try and get a hold of Richard Kamya, the coordinator of NUPSA, as the program continues. But we do have on the line an analyst, Akol Amazima, a Ugandan political analyst, joining us. Akol, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Updates. Now, how would you assess the credibility of this recently announced election results?
Well, the elections we had, of course, had its own issues, but by and large, we can say it was a successful event because, one, every after 5 years, we normally have elections and the results were announced within the record time. Of course, the shutting down of the internet cast a lot of doubt, and now that with people questioning how transparent the election would be. But when you look at the results, they really reflect exactly what was being seen during the campaigns. Because ideally, NRM and President Yoweri Museveni still have support in the villages and in upcountry, and in urban centers. Definitely, the opposition is those are the strongholds of the oppositions. Yes, the violence that was seen, especially against opposition candidates this time, was much, and we believe that the reports made by the international election observers would guide the Electoral Commission and would guide the country so that we can have. We can improve on how we hold elections in the country.
And what types of irregularities, if any, were most significant in influencing the results? You mentioned the fact that President Yoweri Museveni has a lot of support in the rural areas of Uganda. What else? Because what we were told as the media, or what was seen on the ground, was the youth had come out in numbers. So where's the translation of the youth vote who had basically come out and said that they were voting for the opposition?
Well, in this election, we witnessed a lot of voter apathy because it's about 52% or 55% of the voters, the registered voters that voted. So the presence of the military on the streets of Kampala, on the streets of most urban centers, could have scared away most people. And that shows why perhaps the opposition has not performed better, because ideally majority of their supporters, it's believed, did not vote. Then yes, the youth, yes, in Uganda you find that the youth are good at making noise, like in any other African country, but many of them do not register. They do not register for voting. So you also find that we have the youth who are supporting the opposition but were not registered voters. Also, that is also another issue. But the irregularities that have been talked about are voter staffing. That was something that has been talked about by most candidates, especially those who lost and felt that they should have won. There was also the issue of voter intimidation that was also talked about, but this was cutting across both on the opposition and the ruling side. But we've also seen people talking of switching results, that actually switching results whereby the winner is announced the loser and the loser announced the winner. Those are also some of the cases that have been reported in some areas, especially in the districts of Kasese. One particular constituency is Songora South. That is something that has actually been trending and has been widely spoken of about. Then the other thing was, of course, the media this time around was suffocated, because without internet, definitely it becomes hard for the media to accurately report on what is going on. So those are some of the irregularities.
Now let's speak about the results, the election results. How credible are the opposition's claims? Because this is still nothing has been confirmed as yet. It's just a case of people speculating and some hoping this is the case.
Well, of course, as you said, it's still speculation, and therefore investigations have to be thoroughly done. But for the case of Songora South, yes, this is something.
Are you there? Akol, are you there? All right, you seem to have lost that connection to Akol Amazima, who is a Ugandan political analyst, and he was joining us today to unpack exactly what the feeling is on the ground, and with what's happening with regards to Uganda's longtime president, incumbent Yoweri Museveni, calling opposition parties and leaders in these countries who try to use violence to overturn election results terrorists. And Akol was just unpacking some of the reasons why he feels, or why some analysts believe Yoweri Museveni won the election once again by 72%. And it is something that is quite interesting, especially with the fact, what he mentioned is the fact that the youth going out in the streets and claiming that they are going to be voting for change, but not even registering, and the fear of the soldiers who were on the ground. So a lot to unpack on that front. And that was Akol Amazima, a Ugandan political analyst, joining us on the line.
Conversations are happening, and Channel Africa is at the heart of them. We tell the African story with clarity, pride, and purpose, reaching audiences that matter to your brand. Partner with us and connect your business with listeners across borders in multiple languages and markets. For partnership opportunities, sponsorship, or sales, email us at partnership@channelafrica.co.za. Channel Africa, the African perspective. As Africa renews, so does its voices. 60 years of Channel Africa. Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
It is 19 after 12 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. The South African government has declared a national disaster in provinces hit by severe flooding, including KwaZulu-Natal, Mpumalanga, Limpopo and the Western Cape, which has also experienced wildfires. Heavy rainfall has displaced many communities, damaged homes and disrupted basic services. Now, the South African Red Cross Society has responded to the disasters, but says that collective action is needed to address the scale of the impact. For more on this, we are joined on the line by the KwaZulu-Natal Province Red Cross Provincial Manager, Siyabonga Hlatshwayo. Siyabonga, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
To you and the listener at home.
Now, Siyabonga, given that your teams had to pause aid distribution on Saturday due to persistent heavy rains, what is the current status of relief operations in most parts of or most affected areas in the KwaZulu-Natal province, such as Jozini, Umhlabuyalingana and Nongoma? What types of assistance are being prioritized right now?
Operation 2 times to the heavy rains.
Siyabonga, I'm going to ask you to move back to the spot where you were, where we could hear you a lot better. Just move around a little because we are missing out on what you are saying.
Well, no.
Just a little bit more. I'm not sure which direction you're moving in, but just try a little bit more and hopefully we will get a better connection there. Are you still there?
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay, it's a little better. Hopefully we will be able to work with it. Well, Siyabonga, you were going into exactly, the type of assistance that you are able to prioritize right now and also just access to some of these areas. All right, we're having some difficulty with the network there with Siyabonga Hlatrayo. Tracy, we'll ask Tracy to try and get a hold of him. That is the provincial manager of the KwaZulu-Natal province of the KwaZulu-Natal province's Red Cross provincial manager, Siyabonga Hlatrayo, trying to unpack there exactly what they're facing and what they're dealing with on the ground, especially with heavy downpours and also the access into affected areas such as Umhlabuyalingana, Nongoma, as well as Jozini, with regards to relief operations that we are going to try and get him back on the line. You're listening to Africa Updates, coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa on DSTV's audio bouquet channel 802, OpenView channel 628 and on www.channelafrica.co.za, as well as on the SABC Plus app, available on the Apple and Google Play stores. You can also download the Channel Africa app on the Google and Apple Play stores.
Be inspired. Stay informed. Channel Africa, the beauty of life. Now available anytime, anywhere with our new app. Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa. Your window to the continent and beyond. Africa Update, only on Channel Africa. Channel Africa. The African perspective. Conversations are happening, and Channel Africa is at the heart of them. We tell the African story with clarity, pride, and purpose, reaching audiences that matter to your brand. Partner with us and connect your business with listeners across borders in multiple languages and markets. For partnership opportunities, sponsorship, or sales, email us at partnership@channelafrica.co.za. Channel Africa, the African perspective. Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
Today on hashtag Africa Update Ask, we want to know what your view is on the re-election of Uganda's president, 81-year-old Yoweri Museveni. And we want to know what your thoughts are. Just let us know what you believe should have happened or should be happening. You can share your thoughts on all our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram at Channel Africa 1, on Facebook at Channel Africa. You can also send us your comments and voice notes on +27 83 288 6684. That's +27 83 288 6684. Hashtag Africa Update Us.
Get Channel Africa on DSTV Audio Bouquet. Channel 802.
We go back to KwaZulu-Natal, where we were speaking to the KwaZulu-Natal Province Red Cross Provincial Manager, Siyabonga Hlatrayo. Siyabonga, I hope the line is a lot better. Are you with us?
Yes, I'm with
Okay,
you.
that sounds great. Now, I was just trying to find out from you in terms of the pausing of aid distribution on Saturday due to persistent heavy rainfall, and just the current status of relief operations in most of the affected areas in KwaZulu-Natal. We speak of Jozini, Umhlabiyalingana, as well as Nongoma. Now, what type of assistance are you able to prioritize right now, as well as just access to affected areas?
Yes, thank you. As it is, we have been moving with the local disaster management teams chosen in municipality. We've been visiting, we've been going to observe a number of low-lying bridges, and most of them are actually damaged, and we cannot even be able to pass through them to be able to reach the communities that are affected. So that is quite giving us a challenge because we are struggling to access many people that have been affected. But for those that we have managed to get to, we've been prioritizing providing them with food because during the floods, everything got damaged, so they don't even have food. So we've been providing food. We're also mobilizing more resources in terms of blankets, mattresses, hygiene packs, because they actually lost everything, including kitchen sets, because they at the moment they do not have anything at all.
And now, what is the plan now with the people you are not able to access, and who is able to give you information with regards to their situation and their plight?
Fortunately, with Echos in the local municipality, we have had a program where we were training community members that we recruited as volunteers. We trained them on basic disaster management. They are the ones that are able to conduct assessments for us, are able to share information where the damage is, and we are able to provide the information and even share with the authorities.
And with regards to accommodation, what is the situation there? Are they being accommodated, as well as the people that you've been able to access and give, food packages, and also, planning for more?
Yes, there is a need for more, because if you're looking at areas like Umhlabiyalingana, many bridges were seriously damaged there, and we were not able to access the communities. But now we are slowly able to access the communities, and the numbers are growing up to about 417 people now that we have been able to assess that were affected. And it was really more than 200 people now that we have managed to assess. So, but we must appreciate the neighbors as well as the relatives that have opened their houses to house the people that have actually lost everything.
Siyabonga, earlier I saw there was a discussion with, I think, one of the heads of Salga. And they were speaking about the fact that the issue with some of these areas are that present day today, bridges are, washed away. Bridges they don't work, and they then, after the rains and heavy downpours have subsided, they are rebuilt, but for another period of 2 to 3 years or 4 years, where the same areas are affected because the same bridges that have been rebuilt are then impacted as well, and it's a whole cycle. And the question was, why is it not that there is a plan of action, a forward-thinking plan of action, and why are we always at the same place, just whether it's a year or 2 years later? What can be done differently?
For me, I think I was happy with the municipality mayor when he was suggesting that he needed to have a meeting with the local leaders, community leaders, to engage with them in terms of even planning where people should be placed and building their houses, because some of them are really building in flood-prone areas, which the risk is very high. So there has to be an engagement with the communities themselves as well as the community leaders, so that they do consider the risks that are within those areas where they are locating people.
And also just the impact that this has had on schooling and school children in the areas that have been affected. What are you seeing on the ground?
Just as we went to another bridge just now that is like totally damaged. And just as we were going there, we were seeing learners being sent home, back home, because some couldn't cross the bridge. And even those that have managed to get school, they are not going because it is even starting to rain now. It's even raining, so we do not know how much of rain you might expect, and it might even get the rivers to be rising again, and it might be risky.
And what, as the Red Cross, are you able to do in terms of collaborations with education authorities or providing any targeted support in terms of minimizing the educational impact on children?
We support with school uniform for children that have been affected, that actually lost everything, and also mobile classrooms for the schools that have had their classrooms being damaged as well. And also we ensure that we raise awarenesses and let everyone know of the expected maybe weather warnings.
Well, Siyabonga, we have run out of time and are going to have to leave it there for today. Thank you for joining us on Africa Update. Our news update up next.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Lulu. Uganda's opposition National Unity Platform Party has formally rejected the outcome of Uganda's January 15 general election, which declared incumbent President Yoweri Museveni the winner by a landslide. In response, the NUP chapter in South Africa is today holding a protest at the Ugandan embassy in Pretoria. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa has expressed sadness at the crash in Vanderbijl Park in the south of Gauteng province, which has claimed the lives of 14 learners and left 4 in a critical condition. And at least 39 people are now known to have died in southern Spain after a high-speed train derailed and collided with an oncoming one on Sunday night in the worst railway accident in the country since 2013. Channel Africa News, I'm on Lindsay.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective. Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
It's a very good afternoon from the Sports Desk. I am Mosibu Di Makura with your latest sports news at the Sawa. So Senegal captain Kalidou Koulibaly has offered further insight into the decision that led the Lions of Teranga to briefly boycott the Africa Cup of Nations final before Sadio Mane intervened to convince the team to return to the pitch. Now, referee Jean-Jacques Ndala awarded a late penalty following a VAR review in the closing minutes against the host side Morocco at the Prince Moulay Abdallah Stadium. Now, Senegal's players walked off the field in protest. Koulibaly, who was watching from the bench due to a suspension, spoke to the press afterwards about that controversial moment.
It was really strange that the referee whistled this fall, and after we see fall, it was difficult to see a fall on Abdoulaye Seck, but I think that was not a fall. And after, I think that the fact that they saw with the VAR penalty against us was, I think, the difficult situation that we had to manage, and we decided we have a big decision to take, and we wanted to stop the game. But after this, the player like Sadio wanted to come back in the pitch, and they show a lot of character. And after we keep on playing, and we scored this goal.
Koulibaly added that Senegal will go to the FIFA World Cup in the Americas later on this year as one of the strongest teams at the global showpiece.
I think that we show a lot of good things at this AFCON. We show a lot of character, a lot of good football, and I think that a lot of teams will be scared of us. But we want to show that we have a good team. We can manage to play with every team in the world, and we will show it during the World Cup.
Just a few minutes ago, the Confederation of African Football released a statement condemning the unacceptable behaviour of some of the players as well as officials during their Total Energies CAF Africa Cup of Nations final between Morocco as well as Senegal and Rabat last night. So in that statement, CAF strongly condemning any inappropriate behaviour which occurs during matches, especially those targeting the refereeing team or match organisers. In that statement, CAF further says it will be reviewing all the footage and will also refer the matter to the competent bodies for appropriate action to be taken against those found guilty. Onto this now, preparations for the upcoming World Relays in Gaborone 2026 in Botswana continue to gather momentum as the Botswana National Stadium transforms into a world-class arena poised to host one of the most prestigious events on the global athletics calendar. Now, the relay event will take place on the 2nd as well as the 3rd of May. Recent developments concerning the stadium's track as well as event coordination shows Botswana's commitment to delivering a successful as well as a memorable championship. The event also holds significant importance for the nation's sporting ambitions. The World Relays in Gaborone 2026 is anticipated to attract over 1,000 athletes from across the globe, uniting the world's fastest sprinters as well as relay specialists. And finally, in tennis news, third seed Coco Gauff overcame some early serving wobbles to begin her Australian Open title bid with a straight sets victory earlier on today. The 21-year-old is past Russian-born Kamila Rakimova of Uzbekistan 6-2 and 6-3 on a hot and a sunny Rotlever Arena. Meanwhile, three-time Australian Open runner-up Daniil Medvedev was forced to work very hard and grinding past Dutchman Jasper de Jong. The Russian stumbled home 7-5, 6-2 and 7-6 on a hot Margaret Court Arena. At the same time, former Australian Open finalist Marin Cilic turned back the clock with a ruthless display, this time to beat Germany's Daniel Agma 6-love, 6-love and 7-6, while the 2014 Australian Open champion Stan Wawrinka defeated Serbian Laslo Djere 5-7, 6-3, 6-4 and 7-6 and will be playing in the second round of the first Grand Slam tournament of the year. On that winning note, that concludes your sports news this hour. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, do send us an email. That's to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za. Remember to also give us a call. The newsroom line is +27 11714 4459. For Channel Africa Sport, I am Musibudi Makura.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective. Growing with Africa for 60 years. Channel Africa celebrates 2026 with the African Perspective.
Annika Longi sur Channel Africa.
Comment est-ce que les militants et sympathisants du parti Les Transformateurs ont-ils réagi face à la condamnation de Succès Masra?
La condamnation de Succès Masra ne nous a pas surpris et les militants transformateurs ont été bouleversés et indignés étant donné que le verdict est un verdict lourd, illégal, injuste et donc face à la répression dans laquelle le peuple tchadien est confronté, les militants transformateurs se sont résignés de ne pouvoir pas sortir manifester. Et donc, c'est une situation totalement absurde pour un pays. Et aujourd'hui, nous célébrons le 11 août, fête de l'indépendance. On pensait que le verdict allait être plus ou moins clément, mais le verdict est sévère.
Annika Longi, tous les dimanches sur Mix Vibration.
Your window to the continent and beyond. Africa Update. Only on Channel Africa. The African Perspective. Business news on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Lulu. Good afternoon. I am Chanduk Oligege with the business update. The 56th annual meeting of the World Economic Forum is currently underway in Davos, Switzerland. Under the theme, A Spirit of Dialogue, leaders from government, business, civil society, science and culture will gather to tackle some of the world's most pressing challenges, from climate change and energy security to technological innovation and economic inequality. Political economist Dr. Dale McKinley talks about the importance of the gathering.
Well, it matters because it's gathering the world's leaders, and particularly the world's biggest economies. And on top of that, I think probably about majority of the top corporations in the world. So basically the people who run the world economy, people who control a lot of the trade, and who we have relationships with, both in Europe and the United States in particular, but also Asia, are going to be there. So I think that's what makes it important.
In North Africa, Egyptian high-end food retailer Gourmet plans to sell 47.6% of its shares in February in an initial public offering on the Egypt Stock Exchange. The retailer will sell the shares in private and public offerings pending approvals from the Egyptian Exchange and the Financial Regulatory Authority, with a price based on a book-building process. In a statement, the company says it will use the capital to expand its retail and home delivery networks and manufacturing operations. It now has 21 stores in Egypt. Also in the news, one of South Africa's political parties, Rise Mzansi, is backing National Treasury's decision to extend the deadline for public comment on the proposed online gambling tax to the 27th of February this year. The party is urging all South Africans to participate in the process, saying the proposed tax is a step towards regulating an industry that has caused harm to lives and livelihoods. Makashile Ghana is Rise Mzansi chief organizer and National Assembly whip and MP.
We will make our return submission in full, looking at both the quantum as proposed by National Treasury, but also address some of the concerns that some operators have been saying, using their lawyers and lobbying for no tax at the national level. We believe that online gambling, it's not just provincial, it cuts provincial boundaries, and therefore there needs to be a national tax on that. We are going to make our argument.
Libya's central bank has announced a 14.7% devaluation of the dinar. The move sets the exchange rate at 6.37 dinar to the US dollar, the currency's second such adjustment in less than a year, citing the nation's political and economic turmoil. The move follows a 13.3% devaluation in April 2025, which had set the exchange rate at 5.56 dinars to the US dollar. European countries have been discussing possible retaliatory measures as their dispute with President Donald Trump over Greenland continues. EU leaders will hold an emergency summit on Thursday to discuss imposing their own tariffs if Trump goes ahead with additional taxes. The BBC's Katja Adler has the details.
The EU is considering imposing 93 billion euros worth of tariffs on the United States, or restricting the access of American companies to the bloc's single market if Donald Trump makes good on his promise to impose tariffs on any country that gets in the way of his takeover of Greenland, a territory of Denmark. The EU's retaliatory measures are being prepared to give Brussels leverage in talks with the US president in Davos this week, where the EU hopes to reach some kind of compromise. France and Germany's finance ministers meet in Berlin today to establish a joint position.
Financial indicators: $1 in Nigeria is trading at 1,418 naira, Botswana 13 pula 22, Kenya 128 shilling 43, Zambia 19 kwacha 89. BRICS countries: $1 in Brazil is at 5 real 37, Russia 78 rubles 56, India 90 rupees 25, China 6 yuan 97, South Africa 16 rand 42 cents. $1 is 74 pence to the British pound and 85 to the euro. Commodities: gold is trading at $4,667, platinum at $2,341 per ounce, the price of Brent crude oil $63.47 a barrel. That is all for now. For any business stories you'd like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za, or you can call us on +27 11714 4459. For Channel Africa Business, I am Chanduko Ligege.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective. Africa Update on Channel Africa.
Well, thank you to Chanduko Ligege with our business news. It is 12:45 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. Well, today in #Africa Update asks, we're focusing on Uganda and are asking what your view is on the re-election of Uganda's president, 81-year-old Yoweri Museveni. Share your thoughts and your views on all our social media platforms. That's at Channel Africa 1 on X and Instagram, at Channel Africa on Facebook. You can also send us your comments and voice notes to +27 83 288 6684. #Africa Update Asks.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
President Yoweri Museveni said on Sunday that his landslide victory in Uganda's election showed the dominance of his party, which has governed the East African country for 4 decades. Official results showed Museveni winning a landslide with 72% of the vote, but the poll was criticized by African election observers and rights groups due to the heavy repression of the opposition and an internet blackout.
Now, I want to thank God for this victory. And all the victories we have had in the last 50 years, 55 years of struggle, since 1971. I also want to thank the NRM members and all the leaders who have been mentioned here, because all of them played a critical role in this victory. I don't have time to go into details, but it's enough to give a summary, to give that general thank you. I want to thank the armed forces for maintaining peace. I want to thank the religious leaders for praying for this success. Many of them. The opposition were lucky because 10 million of my people did not turn up. They would have been impressed badly. Because you see, we got 8 million votes about, but 10 million of them did not turn up. So we must find out why. Why the 10 million? Me, I have some reasons which I will discuss with SEC. So the opposition are lucky, because if all our members turn up, there will be no opposition in Uganda, I can assure you. This is because you are beginning to go back a bit to the principles of the NRM. Because if you remember, those who are old enough, if they remember the elections of 1996, people were not willing to listen to any story from the opposition, from Semugeri. They said, Semugeri, please, don't disturb us. And he had no impact in many parts of the country. Because that time we had dealt with the major needs of the people. That time, The major needs were, number one, a disciplined army which would not kill people, no extrajudicial killings. People are very, very happy with that. When I was campaigning, I could see it was that atmosphere of maximum unity is coming back.
And that was Uganda's President-elect Yoweri Museveni. And that clip sourced from the President Museveni's YouTube page. Well, it is 12:50 Central African time, and we say happy Monday. And hello to Matsako Musito. How are you today?
Happy Monday. I'm good, thank you, Lulu. So the upside, the Monday edition. Hey, this is us on the 19th. We always focus on property on Mondays, okay? And we need to determine now whether it's a buyer's or a seller's market. You know, I guess for those that are not under pressure to sell their homes, this is a good time perhaps to look at when you can strategically put your property on the market and how to get the best yields. So is it a buyer's market? Is it a seller's market? We're going to unpack that. That's just one of the very important conversations coming through.
All right, and you have to stay tuned on The Upside. That's with Matsako Musito and Tebohole Kuleni. If you want to know more, whether it is a buyer's market or a seller's market, and, you'll get all that information on the Jam Pack Show this afternoon from the top of the hour. We continue on Africa Update, and there's a lot coming up after this break.
As the sun rises on 2026, Channel Africa celebrates with you. This year, may prosperity flow like water. May unity strengthen our nations. And may every African story inspire the world.
Channel Afrique vous accompagne dans cette célébration. Que l'espoir illumine notre continent.
Que as vozes de África ecoem com orgulho.
From all of us at Channel Africa, we wish you and yours a joyful, successful, and prosperous 2026.
Channel Africa, the African perspective.
Your window to the continent and beyond. Africa Update, only on Channel Africa. Channel Africa, the African perspective.
It is 12:52 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. Uganda's longtime president Yoweri Museveni has called opposition parties and leaders in his country who tried to use violence to overturn election results terrorists. Official results have shown that the 81-year-old won by 72% of the vote. The poll has been criticised by African election observers and rights groups. Now, the National Unity Platform, official NUP chapter South Africa, led by Robert Nkangulani, has rejected the results, and the party is protesting at the Ugandan embassy in Pretoria. Our reporter Michael Mbewe is there and now joins us on the line. Michael, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Good afternoon, Lulu. Good afternoon to our listeners in the continent, but also beyond.
Now, Michael, what's happening there at the Ugandan embassy?
Well, as you alluded in your intro, Ugandan Opposition National Unity Platform, the official chapter in South Africa, is formally rejecting the outcome of the 15th January Ugandan general elections, which declared the incumbent president Yoweri Museveni the winner by a landslide. So the party alleges that the polls were fundamentally flawed, citing what it describes as a credible evidence of widespread irregularities that compromised the integrity of the democratic process. So according to the party, the reports from the party observers, civil society partners, and independent monitors, the elections were characterized by voter intimidation, extensive ballot stuffing, discrepancies in vote tabulation, and also internet shutdown, and lack of transparency during counting, and the arrest of key opposition figures, including the deputy president for the western region of the country. Now, for this cause, they have mobilized to come to the embassy of Uganda in Pretoria, the capital of South Africa, to hand over an MOD, which is a memorandum of demands, calling for these elections to be annulled, but also not accepting that Yoweri Museveni was indeed elected, as the president for the 7th or 8th time, if I'm not mistaken, Lulu.
So what now? Is the embassy? Do they have a representative that is going to, accept their memoranda if this is the case, or their decisions with regards to the elections? And will this change anything?
Well, just to contextualize before I respond to that, Yoweri Museveni became president of Uganda in January 1986, Lulu, after his National Resistance Army seized power following a 5-year guerrilla war. He initially received domestic and international praise for restoring relative stability after years of political turmoil under Idi Amin and Milton Obote. In the late 1980s and 1990s, his government implemented economic liberalization and reconstruction reforms, positioning Uganda as a development success story in the region. Over time, Museveni consolidated power by restricting political competition, introducing a no-party system that remained in place until 2005. So constitutionally, the constitution was amended in 2005, removing presidential term limits, allowing him to extend his rule, followed by the removal of age limits in 2017. Now coming to today, he gained about 70 plus of the vote. The election commission announced against 25 plus for his closest challenger, Bobby Wine, who has condemned what he described as fake results and ballot stuffing. Wine has not provided any details, and the authorities have not responded to his allegations. But African Union, as we have noted, election observers said they saw no evidence of ballot stuffing. Coming back home here, yes, they have handed over the MOD to the representative Commissioner Richard Opio, who has encouraged, the protesters to follow a legal route, to file their disputes of the results. But the protesters are saying that there's no, fair judicial process in the country. So what they are saying is that they will mobilize, keep on mobilizing, but they're also calling the people in Uganda to mobilize within the dissent that they've been facing. I also spoke to one lady, Lulu Nomsbunga Skovia, who told us that his son, as we are talking now, has also been abducted by the authorities in Uganda without a trace, and she doesn't know what to do. I asked her, have you notified the officials here in South Africa that your son also is part of those who have been abducted? She said no, because she fears for her life as well. So it's very complicated. And the leader, we're supposed to speak to him as we planned, but unfortunately due to communication issues, we couldn't get him, but we'll see when we can get him so that we can get his way forward. But they are vowing to say they will continue protesting until their demands have been, accepted by the government. Lulu.
Now, has there been any information with regards to Bobby Wine in terms of if he's planning to take any action, if he's planning to take these results to the courts? What's happening there? Does anyone know exactly on the ground in Uganda?
Speaking to the leaders of the party here in diaspora, they are saying that luckily, the news broke that he was kidnapped, and then they went to his house, the authorities, and ransacked his house, and but he managed to skip away from authorities after that ordeal, and we don't know where his whereabouts, but I've seen videos circulating on social media to wherever he is, pointing out that no, they will continue to protest, but also they are calling for other nations to be in solidarity with the people of Uganda, because it's long overdue, saying that Yoweri Museveni has been, the ruler for the country for 40 years plus, and he's 86, and his time is over. It's time for the youth now to take over because the country is going nowhere. They were also attributing that they are contributing about $3 billion US dollars from here in diaspora to Uganda. But at the end of the day, that money, they don't know what is happening to them. The country is still underdeveloped. You look at the roads, infrastructure, and everything. But while Museveni brags that his country is really being developed. So
well, Michael,
so they're saying that no, we will continue to really pursue this agenda of removing Museveni. Lulu.
Well, Michael, thank you so much for your time. We are going to leave it there for today. That's our reporter, Michael Mbewe, who is on the ground at the Ugandan embassy, where some of the leaders of the diaspora, in terms of the membership of the opposition parties, are on the ground there and disputing these elections that have taken place in Uganda. That's a wrap of Africa Update. It's been a great hour. Continue with us on all our social media platforms, and we look forward to doing this again tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
It's just gone 1 p.m. in Central African time. It is time for the news.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Matseko. In your latest news, Uganda's opposition National Unity Platform has formally rejected the outcome of Uganda's January 15 general election that declared incumbent President Yoweri Museveni winner by a landslide. The party alleges that the polls were fundamentally flawed, citing what it describes as credible evidence of widespread irregularities that compromise the integrity of the democratic process. It says, according to reports from party observers, civil society partners, and independent monitors, the elections were characterized by voter intimidation, extensive ballot stuffing, discrepancies in vote tabulation, internet shutdown, a lack of transparency during counting, and the arrest of key opposition figures, including the deputy president for Western Region. In response, the NUP chapter in South Africa is today holding a protest at the Ugandan embassy in Pretoria. Channel Africa spoke to protester Adam Nsubuga.
Today, we choose to come here. We are going to send our petition to Ugandan embassy for our complaint or the things happening in Uganda. Things is not right. The election was not free and fair. The way they abducting our son, our brothers and sisters, things is not right. So that's why today we are here, so that we can deliver our petition to Ugandan embassy, to be trying to send a message to our ambassador that whatever is going on in Uganda is not right, it's not free and fair. The election was not good. It was many things which was not right to our brothers and sisters, abducting our brother, jailed our brother for no reason.
Mozambique's President Daniel Chapo has cancelled his trip to the World Economic Forum in Davos this week due to severe floods. The floods have damaged infrastructure and affected hundreds of thousands of people in the southern African country. In a report, the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs says heavy rains since mid-December have caused widespread floods in Mozambique's Gaza, Maputo and Sofala provinces, with several river basins above alert levels. The OCHA report said authorities estimated that more than 400,000 people had been affected, with numbers expected to rise in rains as rains continues. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa has expressed sadness at the crash in Van der Bijl Park in the south of the Gauteng province, which has claimed the lives of 14 learners and left in at least 4 in critical condition. The learners were being transported to school at the time of the tragedy. Ramaphosa, in a statement, says it is distressing that the incident has taken place at a time when the Human Rights Commission has published a report into scholar transport. Presidential spokesperson Vincent Magwenya explains.
On the learner transport tragedy, the President finds it particularly distressing that this incident has taken place on the day the South African Human Rights Commission has published a report on scholar transport in the Northwest. The President's thoughts are with the families, teachers, classmates, and friends of the young victims.
South Africa's Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs Minister Velenkosini Hlabisa has welcomed the government's classification of flood-hit provinces as national disaster areas. He says it is a critical step in strengthening coordination across all spheres of government and speeding up response efforts in the hardest-hit provinces. The National Disaster Management Centre head Elias Sithole says the classification is meant to direct resources where they are needed the most. Sithole explains which provinces will be covered by the classification.
We've realized in the Eastern Cape, they were affected by floods as well. Northwest also, they were affected by floods, and then also KZN. So our classification covered those provinces as well, because we thought let's not only focus to Limpopo and Mpumalanga, because these other provinces as well, even though the focus now is more on Limpopo and Mpumalanga, but those provinces also, they need help as well from the national government. That's why we've included those provinces as well.
Lastly, the death toll from high-speed train collision in Spain has now risen to 39, with 152 people injured. Video from the scene shared on social media showed rescuers pulling passengers from twisted carriages lying on their side under the glare of floodlights. Some passengers climbed out of smashed windows, while others were wheeled away on stretchers. Speaking at a press conference, Spanish Transport Minister Oscar Pinter said the cause of the crash is not yet known, adding that this section of track was renewed in May. For any news stories you'd like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us at +27 11714 4459. Channel Africa News, I'm Onele Nsinsi.
SABC News. The African Perspective. Time to stay informed, inspired, and connected to the ideas driving Africa forward. The Upside on Channel Africa, the African Perspective.
We're 6 minutes into 1 p.m. in Central African time. Thank you for tuning in. This is the Monday edition of The Upside. My name is Matsakwa Musito. You and I are in each other's company until 4 p.m. this afternoon, and it is a pleasure to open gateways into the African continent so we can get a first eye view, if we could call it that, a first eye view of what's happening on the continent. Thank you very much for tuning in. It is a pleasure to host the space for you. Tebogo Lekuleni is on an MSC cruise, and he will be coming to you from the cruise this afternoon.